Hi everyone, so I'm back and today I'm going to be doing the Beauty and the Beast book tag, which I got from dulivre.blogspot.com, and it just sounded really fun, so I thought I would go for it because why not? So the first one is Oh What a Guy, Gaston, a villain you can't help but love. And the reason I'm sitting here today as opposed to in front of my bookshelf is because of this poster. Snape is the villain that I can't help but love, and I totally understand why people hate him. He is an awful human being, and I understand he's very, very problematic, but I just can't hate him, and I think that's the beauty of J.K. Rowling's style of writing, is that, here we have this awful, 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 awful human being, and people, because of how awful he is and different factors that I'm not going to get into, have decided that they absolutely hate him, but he is not a full villain, but he is most definitely not a hero. He definitely falls more into the villain category though, but I don't know. I can't hate Snape. But I totally understand why people hate him. But me, personally, I like him. I like him a lot, and I don't think I will ever not like him. But yeah. Next is Here Where She Meets Prince Charming, your OTP. I would have to go with Katniss and Peeta, and I'm choosing this mainly because my fiance is filming this, and he and his cousin are like, Katniss just ended up with Peeta because they ended up in like those circumstances, like otherwise they would never get back together. But there is something in the way it's written that I feel like Katniss does care for Peeta, and she's lived through some horrible things. Like, it's hard for her to open up to someone, but I remember reading that last page in which she chose Peeta, and it was just like, this feels right. Yeah. Next is I Want Much More Than This Provincial Life, a character that's destined for bigger things. That, for me, is definitely Winnie Foster from Tuck Everlasting. There's a reason she decided not to drink from that fountain and decided to live her life. I mean, becoming immortal, yeah, she could have done maybe a lot more, you could argue, but I don't know. She was destined for a lot more, and she made the right decision in not drinking that water. Next is Be Our Guest, a book that makes you hungry. So there isn't really a book that has made me hungry, except for maybe like the cookbooks that I read. Maybe The Hunger Games, in that part where in the first book where Katniss goes to the Capitol for the very first time and she's eating all these foods that she's never eaten before. There's some stuff that she describes there that sounds like really, really good, but I wouldn't say there's like a book that I was like, man, I gotta like eat that right now. Next is Beauty and the Beast, Opposites Attract. And I would choose Ron and Hermione, even though that pairing does not make sense to me, and I don't think it ever will make sense to me. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me because people are like so happy that they ended up together and everything, but I don't hate that they ended up together, but I definitely agree with J.K. Rowling, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, who say that in now, like, Ron and Hermione would be like on the brink of divorce. Like, I don't think that's a couple that is made to last. That's just me personally. I think they're great friends, but making a marriage work, I just don't see it. Yeah. Next is, oh no, what happened to all the other ones? There was more. Okay, found them. They just disappeared on me. Okay, but there's something in him that I simply didn't see. A character who is more than they appear. That, for me, is Victor from Vicious. I loved Victor. There is way, like, he is such a complex character. I can't even, like, get into it right now because it's just a lot. But I remember after I finished reading it, I loved the book, and I was like, I told my fiance, you have to read this right now. And so he read it, and he was like kind of anti-Victor at first when he like initially started reading it, and I totally understand why he was. But then the tides changed. I don't know. Read it for yourself. Find out why. But Victor from Vicious. I was innocent and certain, now I'm wiser but unsure. A book that changed you in some way. The Kite Runner. I remember reading that book for the first time, and if you've read that book, there's this part at the very beginning that like just makes you so angry, and then you get over it, and then you continue reading it, and then there's something else that happens, and it makes you even more angry about the event that happened at the very beginning. But it's all, after I finished reading it, it was honestly like, I can't even describe how I felt after I finished reading it, but I definitely changed after I read it, and that is one of my favorite books. So I highly recommend it. Kill the Beast, a book that you picked up because of hype. Twilight. Oh my gosh. So, when this book came out, I was in high school, and all my friends were reading it, and they were raving about how awesome it was, and how incredible Edward was, and how just none of the boys at our school could match up to Edward, which is why they weren't dating anyone. And I read it, and I was like, Edward is creepy AF. I would not want him as my boyfriend, first of all. Bella's pretty pathetic. And overall, I was just like, what am I reading? I definitely should have DNF'd that book, but I sludged through it, I made it, and I did not finish the series. That's the only book I read, but that was enough. That was total garbage. Awful. No. I'll never shake away the pain. A book or moment that always makes you cry. For me, that would have to be Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. This is a really thin book, maybe like as thin as my iPad, maybe a little bit thinner. It's really, really short, and it would maybe, it doesn't take very long to read. So I was on my way to reading it. It was for my young adult book class in college, and I was reading it, and I was towards the end, and it's written in poetry, and I get to this one poem, and I just, even now I'm like, reading that was hard. I honestly, I read that poem, I closed the book, I put it beside me, and I didn't pick it up again until like a day or two before my assignment was due on that book, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's hard, especially if you have a very special bond with an animal companion. That probably gave it away, but you know, whatever. But that's like a book that short. I could have read it easily in that one sitting, and I I had to put it down. I put it down and I did not pick it up again for several days after that because it was just too much to handle. Last one, we've reached the end. Oh no! Is How Does a Moment Last Forever? A book that you've loved since you were little. And that would have to be Little House in the Big Woods. I don't know. My second grade teacher read it to us and I loved it. And I've loved it since. And I think I will continue to love it. But anyway, that is the end of this tag. I tag anyone who wants to do it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.